morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real pleasure to be with you this morning on a subject and a theme which is occupying a very, very large part of my life. About a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, I had a very out-of-the-skin experience, very different experience in life. Suddenly, after about 30 years of struggling as a first-generation entrepreneur who started a company with about 50,000 rupees, suddenly I had a reasonable amount of capital but no work. For about 30 years, it was the other way around. There was never any capital but a lot of work. A lot of people told me, what you going to do next? And every advice that I got was, go digital. Of course, they meant a very different kind of digital. Their digital was go search a leisure travel website, go and buy yourself a villa in the Bahamas, settle down, play golf, have fun. I took the advice a bit more literally. I said, we must go digital. So started exploring what was happening in the world of digital content, media. While at Network 18, we had created a reasonably strong digital or a web franchise, Web 18, strong properties, moneycontrol.com, firstpost.com, ibnlive.com. But I was quite buffered from the realities of those businesses. I used to see those businesses much more on worksheets and projections and targets. I never really got to see the business from the operating side. And that's what happens when you have a 6,000 personnel buffer between you and the operations. But all of a sudden, as I said, that 6,000 buffer was gone. And I was down to a team of 2, along with my wife, who also had to move out of Network 18 at the same time that I moved out. So when we said, what will we do now? We said, let's get our teeth into digital. I'd seen the growth of firstpost.com. And I knew that there are things happening here. So we said, best way to start is to go to a travel website, book our tickets for New York and the Silicon Valley, learn about what's happening in the whole area of digital news and information content consumption. Learn it from within the trenches. Go out to New York City and go out to Silicon Valley where maximum innovation is happening. In New York, it's really much more on the content side, the new kinds of formats. And in Silicon Valley, it's really much more about technology platforms and dissemination of this content and how this content is consumed. And I'm glad we did both. We went to New York and we went to Silicon Valley. Because the number one lesson I learned through this journey of discovery was that even a first post-like product, which was launched just 3 years ago and which I had seen the growth of, is actually fast becoming a legacy product. Desktops are becoming legacy. That's the rate at which innovation is happening. And everything is actually now with the mobile screen. And that requires a slightly different formatting of content, and that requires certainly very different kind of technology. So this lesson came straight through, came hard. And we had the opportunity to meet some of the new age companies which are doing massive innovation in these areas. We've met the Voxes of the world. We met the Mashables of this world. We met the Prismatics of this world. These are all, small companies, young companies doing a lot of new things. Some of them may be old companies, but then they were transforming their business model. So they were literally, a Vox is an old company, but it's actually a very young company with the kind of content that it is doing and the kind of technology that it is setting up. So we came back very clear in our mind that it has to be the handheld digital device, because there were 2 or 3 bets which were becoming very clear. And I can therefore put my life on the line, money on the line, on 2 or 3 trends that I think are going to be almost inevitable. In fact, not almost, I can drop the word almost, they're inevitable. Number one, that all news and information content will move to the handheld device. And this could happen as quickly as 5 years. You don't need a static screen to consume news and information. What you would need a static screen, and I stop calling it television now. It's not television versus, it's about a static consumption experience and it's about a mobile consumption experience. Static consumption will happen really or will remain the preserve of, I believe, only two kinds of content. Number one, large format entertainment. If you're watching large format entertainment, obviously you can't move that 70 mm screen around. So large format entertainment will still be consumed predominantly, I believe, or at least, if not predominantly, significantly on a static screen. And the second thing is community viewing, where there is a community viewing experience, like the IPL final, which you don't really want to watch on a mobile screen by yourself. You want to watch it having beer in a pub with your friends. That will happen on a static screen. So community viewing of any kind of content which requires community viewing and large format entertainment. These will remain have a significant presence on the static screen. Every other kind of content consumption, news, information, information plus like technology, entertainment, health, even small format entertainment, the listicles, the 4-minute spoof, the 5-minute spoof will move almost entirely to the handheld device. So those learnings were very clear. At this stage, I think I'll get you formally into the presentation. So if you can cut to that, yes. So this is really simply a statement of what I just said, that I believe that the next big thing will be the handheld digital multimedia content consumption, which is really a marriage of content and technology. This will give you a sense of how media content has evolved in the last 400 years. So if you look at modern mass media, sort of started at in about 1600. And for the next 300 years, 1600 to 1900, 1600 is around when the printing press, the mass printing press came into being. And then slowly, very slowly, over the next 100 years or so, the habit of a daily newspaper evolved, where people said, I want my news and information in the morning delivered to my home. It started largely as community news. But the whole evolution to a daily news cycle began around with the printing press, and about 1700 that came in. And then, evolution happened, the advertising, the full page ad appeared, photos started appearing, so photojournalism started. And all of this very slow evolution happened over 300 years, from 1600 to 1900, give or take a few years. The next 90 years, from 1900 to 1990, saw much quicker evolution. You saw the advent of television, you saw the advent of radio, you saw the advent of the large exhibition screens for motion picture, and you saw the creation of media conglomerate companies which were doing printing, radio, television, distribution. So these big companies like the Comcasts and the Disneys and the CBSs, the Time Warners, all of them acquired size and heft. And television evolved, became color, satellite TV came in. So this 90 years saw quite a strong wave of innovation. About 1990, desktop internet began to have quite a strong resonance with people. Email, content delivery. You started clicking onto your personal computer and started looking at desktop. So the phase from 1990 started getting more desktop, the mobile phone appeared, satellite TV started getting deeper into people's lives. So innovation started gathering. And from 1990 to 2005, innovation was quite dramatic because desktop internet became a part of our lives. But if you thought that those 15 years were creating accelerated innovation, all of us didn't even know what was going to hit us. Because The real change happened with the advent of the smartphone. And for ease of short graphic language, I'll just say iPhone, because I think while Samsung and the others are very, very great products, and there are a lot of good smartphones now, it's the iPhone which literally just changed everything. So that revolution, which started in 2007 or thereabout, is really just 8 years old. And that has created the kind of disruption in media content consumption that the previous 400 years were not able to. And therefore, this slide is really the whole story. In 400 years, the world evolved print, radio, television, photo, camera, and desktop internet. All of these 400 years of evolution has today been squeezed into this one device. 400 years of innovation squeezed into this one device. And the computing power of this device is enormous. I believe this has the computing power of a virtual supercomputer, as supercomputers were defined in the 60s and 70s. And those used to take racks and racks of space. But all of that has been squeezed into this one device. And this has changed our world completely. If you don't believe that, then I can only tell you that you are living in a complete state of denial, because the change that is happening is dramatic and it's complete. What is happening? Well, let's first look at consumer habits and expectations. When I was growing up, and several of you, I guess, were also growing up in the 70s and 80s, life was partitioned between, life was structured. The day was very structured. Woke up in the morning, you read your newspapers, you went to work, you worked, you had distractions, but never a gadget was distracting you or news was coming at you. If something really big happened, a friend would phone you and say, you know, there's been an earthquake or something like that. And then you came home in the evening, you relaxed, you put on the TV, and you watched primetime TV. So it was a very structured day. Newspaper in the morning, television in the evening, and work in the middle of it. All of that's gone. Audiences now are completely connected forever. It's the now generation. And again, it's because of this device. Because this device, you stay engaged with every minute of your life. It beeps at you, it pushes content at you, and if something was to happen, you get it immediately on this device. So that whole concept of prime time, morning newspapers and evening television, has been demolished. It's gone. And the whole idea of audiences partitioning their day is gone. Audiences are forever connected, and they're always watching, finding, sharing, getting beeped, getting tagged, all kinds of things are happening. The other thing is, point number 2, I, me, mine. There was a time, again in the 70s and 80s, even in the 90s, that our media was controlled by the voice of God. And the God was either the editor or the senior writer or a film director or a serial director, you know, who would make these big media splashes with their content. We were passive consumers of very good quality content, but we were passive consumers. So besides having our day partitioned, we also passively consumed what was thrown at us by the voice of God, the big editor. That's gone again completely, because now I don't just receive content. I engage, interact, answer back, give my opinion. I'm forever interacting via this device with the kind of content that is getting thrown at me. So it's now about what my voice is, what my interests are, and it's all about now, and I'm interacting with it. So the voice of God, that big editor, is also gone. The other thing is, connected to this voice of God going, is the fact that today I consume all my content laterally. I literally, if you look at your own experience, where do you get your first content alert from? Usually a friend on Facebook or Twitter who will say, hey, read this. It's a great piece. You'll like it. Because your friend knows about your interests and knows that if this is a piece that should reach out to you, usually pings you on one of these social media platforms, WhatsApp, and you get it. So content today is being triggered, consumption is being triggered on social media. I was reading just this morning that in the West now, almost 50% of the traffic of even the big brands like the New York Times and other is actually coming through social, is actually coming through Facebook because people are sharing their content with friends. So the whole social paradigm is amazing because a lot of people are actually saying the home page is dead now because that's just a place where you collect some articles and you pictures and you keep it, because people are not landing up on the home page. People are now coming in through social devices, and therefore they're coming straight to the story page. So suddenly the story page, which was always, had subservient importance, is suddenly the big thing, because the primary impact of an audience coming to your site is actually the landing page, is the story page, because they are coming through the social media sharing device. And therefore that means that has great implications on how you organize your data and how you organize the page, because if you have to engage, if you have to get the engagement going, then it has to be via the story page and not the home page. In fact, a lot of people, I'm sure you're reading, I'm not so sure that I agree with that approach, but a lot of people are talking about now we are only apps. We are not even a site. We will just be an app on your device, handheld device. And some very, very big companies like Flipkart are now talking about that. I'm not so sure whether that is the route to take for a media site. It may be the route to take for an e-commerce site. I'm not even sure about that. But of course, I mean, they have the data and they've taken that call. We're still seeing strong desktop traffic. We still see almost 50% of our traffic, 40 to 50% of our traffic is still desktop, but coming from the story page. So that's important. It's desktop traffic, but it's not coming from the home page. And of course, very, very asset-light consumption. People want to go to what their interest is. They don't want to waste too much of real estate on things which they don't want the page cluttered. They want to go to what their interest is. Implications for content are again quite real. There was a time when you broke a big story in the newspaper and it pretty much dominated the day. So if you broke a Bofors in 1985 on the front page of the Indian Express or the Hindu, that pretty much stayed the story for the day. When television came, television started running with that story. So you had a situation where the exclusive broke in the morning, but within 3-4 hours, television had taken the story forward, had brought in newer voices. That happened in the 90s. What's happening today in the digital world is dramatic. The life of the exclusive is perhaps 5 minutes. Because the minute an exclusive news breaks, there are at least 100,000 people or 50,000 people, depending on the kind of topic it is, who have knowledge and experience perhaps equal to or more than the journalist who broke that story. So they are quickly at it. They are quickly value adding to the story. They are quickly giving their own comment. They are quickly taking the story forward. They are quickly debunking often some assertions that the journalist may have made. So the ability of the expert or the experienced voice to get into an exclusive is now so real and in real time, that exclusive has a life only of 5 minutes. So therefore, it's very important that you don't stay with this, it's my exclusive and I'm going to stay with it through. It's very important for you to be curating, collecting opinion as it is happening on social media, as it is happening on platforms, and continuously updating your own exclusives and keeping that ahead with crowdsourced wisdom and crowdsourced content and crowdsourced expertise. Visual, it's quite amazing. If there was no bandwidth problem, then the amount of video consumption, the rate at which video is growing on this device is explosive. The problem is only in bandwidth, because you get irritated with the buffering. But if you're in an environment where there is a very large an effective Wi-Fi connectivity, then you see how easy it is to consume video on this device. And then you see how much of video consumption is going, for several reasons. Video is language agnostic. Video is also literacy agnostic. If you're not that well read, doesn't matter. Video consumption is easier. And it's so much easier on this device. So it's a bandwidth issue. But even now, at the Quint, which is something we just launched actually 6 weeks back as a desktop platform, and about 15 weeks back as a as a page on Facebook, we are clearly seeing we just about 120,000 likes, I think, on Facebook in the last 15, 16 months. But we are seeing the rate at which video consumption is outstripping print consumption. So if you look at the hierarchy, the printed word is consumed, but it's the least. The photograph is seeing a resurgence. The rate at which photographs get consumed on this device has astonished me. So if we do a photo feature on the Nepal earthquake, the consumption of that is very, very high, as opposed to a print piece. And a video, of course, gets the highest consumption. But since bandwidth is a problem, sometimes photos get consumed easier and therefore more and quicker. The other issue is ability to go hyperlocal. If you print a newspaper or you run a television channel, it's a linear signal. So you cannot alter your content depending on where your consumer is. But on this device, as I move through the city of Mumbai or India or the world, this device recognizes where I am and therefore can curate from the environment and create a local stream of news for me and a local stream of information for me. Restaurants, accidents, general news, murders, crime, all of that in real time can be made hyperlocal. So there is no geography left anymore. And of course, the kind of content. There are younger audiences. We are seeing that our maximum consumption is between 20 and 35-year-olds. And of course, we have some 35 to 45-year-olds as well, very little after that. And then we have some less than 20 as well. But the bulk of our audiences are 20 to 35. And these people like they like their news serious. They like their news substantial. They like their information substantial. But they don't want it in an orthodox format. They want you to do new things. So the word that I have been able to learn in the last 4 months, 3 months that we've been creating content for this audience is intelligence. It's not about serious anymore. It's not about dense, academic, heavy information anymore. It's about intelligence. And intelligence has got 2 components to it. Intelligence is about being popular in the way you spin your content and being substantial. So audiences are very intelligent. They want intelligent content. So when we were running a story for the 56 days that Rahul Gandhi was on a sabbatical, now you can write dense academic pieces on it, but the phenomenon was inherently so quirky and serious at the same time that you had to make it quirky and serious. Because here was the leader of a person whose party commanded 20% plus of India's electorate, and was gone for 56 days, and no one was willing to tell us where he was. So there is an inherent quirkiness and there is an inherent seriousness in this situation. And therefore, the content had to be told in that manner. So we did a large number of photo features, photoshopped. Where is Rahul? Is he under the Bodh tree trying to get nirvana? They were quirky, but they were very serious comments. So I think that's very important. This audience wants intelligence is the word that I've been able to curate. It wants intelligence, and intelligence is not just serious. The other thing is creating a lot of debate in our world, which is what is called native advertising. A lot of journalists are questioning whether this is the right thing to do. My point is that organizations like us now have, there was sometimes, earlier they used to say there is a Chinese wall between content and advertising. I am not getting into that debate, but I believe that organizations like us now need to create the job of an advertising editor, not an advertising manager, not an advertising sales guy, but an advertising editor. That is an editorial mind who is creating content which will marry the needs of an advertiser. So the content has to be credible. The content has to stand any kind of third-party scrutiny, and yet it has to service the objectives of an advertiser. And that's possible because in the world of digital, there are 2 or 3 things which are amazing. Ability to target, ability to make it specific to a geography. These things don't exist in television and don't exist in newspaper. Therefore, the role of an advertising editor never existed. There you had the advertorial, and you clearly said this is an advertorial, you put it in a different color, and you felt very happy that your conscience was taken care of. That's not going to be like this because it's all seamless here. There is no distributor intervening. You can be hyper-local, you can be hyper-targeted. I'll give you an example. And this is an example of native advertising that I believe is inevitable. And therefore, rather than fight it, we must embrace it and become transparent about it, disclose it, but not fight it, not get ideological about it. Because ideology, if it stands in the face of technology, it's ideology which gets run over, not technology. Because the march of technology is led by the march of human beings, because human beings are the adopters of that technology. So here's an example. If I am a new e-commerce site, and I am targeting myself at new parents, people who've just had a kid, 1 year, 2 years, who's got a toddler in the house. And I'm a startup, therefore my distribution reach is only in the city of Mumbai. That's how I'm setting up. I'll first do Mumbai and then I'll go national. I want to get my products known, I want to get my service known. Little point, well, you can say, all right, do in Mumbai Time, do in Mumbai Mirror, but that's a scatterbombing of a whole city. I am interested, my products are such, I'm interested in a particular demographic. I'm only interested in young parents. I'm only interested in, again, a defined sort of income level. Now that you get on a digital site, you get that without a problem. Because today you can use a Facebook algorithm, you can use a Twitter algorithm to say, this advert of mine or this content piece of mine, I just want it to be delivered to people who've had kids in the last 5 years, who live in these particular areas of Mumbai, so that sort of defines the income level. And please deliver my ad only to these guys. And it gets done today. It gets done pretty easily today. So why would I bother to pay lakhs and lakhs of rupees putting one insert in a newspaper which will scatterbomb it over all of Bombay, or worse, in a television channel which is scattered it all over India? I'm not interested. And the cost outpaces that cost by 100:1. So here comes the need for an advertising editor who can create content targeted at that young parent, which says, by the way, there is this product which does this well, and there's a little bit of a question mark on whether this does. Try it for yourself. So, and then gets it targeted at the audience. So those things are going to happen, whether you like it or you don't like. So you might as well evolve a mechanism and a framework which addresses the ideological issues rather than get big-headed about it and saying, we won't do it. It's all about transparency and disclosure. It's not about trying to create separate walls. So that's, this is a slide that I think I now need to remove from the presentation, because this just gets out of date every day. The rate at which the explosion of content is happening is it's just mind-boggling numbers. You don't even know what they are: 50 billion, 10 billion, 5 billion. So there's no way of verifying that data, saying that it's accurate right now. It probably was accurate yesterday, and it's no longer accurate. This I've already covered quite a bit, so I don't want to run too much into repetition. This is the final slide. And this is just a summary of what I've been saying. Prime news time is dead. The world partitioned into morning newspapers and evening television is over. You are now in the world of forever connected, now pinging news and information world. And therefore, you have to be, it's a 24-hour prime time. Homepage is dead. You have to get into social distribution. The homepage is really now more a collection. Audiences are coming to you increasingly so laterally from the side. Forever connected audience, we talked about it. The original exclusive, its shelf life is very, very short. Exclusives will very soon, and this is the last really point that I would make, that I see the nature of journalism changing just as the nature of photojournalism changed about 10, 15 years ago, where you're now getting much better photographs from that solo guy, from the guy who, who's popularly called paparazzi, but actually he's a solo guy. He's the guy who goes and gets you extraordinary pictures and then syndicates them. I believe that's going to happen to journalism as well. There'll be journalists who will say, tragedy has struck Nepal, big news story, I'm going to go there. I know, I have contacts there, I've traveled there, I've worked there. I'm going to give you a stream of exclusive stories, and I'm willing to syndicate it to anybody. Times of India, Network 18, The Quint. Please let me know who wants an exclusive syndicate and pay me for it. And that is how journalism will evolve. And products like ours will become syndicators, distributors, curators of content. And the individual journalist will become more like the author of a book. He will be proprietary with his content. It's already beginning to happen. Go and see a site called Story Hunter, just been launched in New York. Today, if you go to Story Hunter and you want to commission a story from a well-known journalist in, say, Iraq, you just have to press there saying, I'm looking for an exclusive story on Indians in Iraq. And on your page will pop up the name of, say, 20 journalists, all very credible guys, great track record, who are there. And you can bid for their stories and say, okay, I'll pay you $500 or I'll pay you $400. This is my story pitch. Gets transacted, you get your story, everyone's happy, you've got your exclusive, he's not on your payroll, he's reporting from the location, and this website is just about a few weeks old. So I see this phenomenon catching on. So this is how our world is completely and totally and dramatically set for change. Either you are with the change or you're going to just have to retire and drop off the curve. Thank you very much for being such a wonderful audience.